Welcome back. Welcome back. Jeremy Irons is considered to be one of the finest English actors. He received worldwide acclaim for his performance as Charles Ryder in the TV adaptation of Brideshead Revisited back in the 80s. He won an Oscar for Best Actor, playing Klaus von Bülow in Reversal of Fortune in 1990. But he's never lost his love for the stage, and I met up with him on the eve of the world premiere of Impressionism, a new American play on Broadway.
Well, you're familiar with the work, and I'm sure you know that the estate authorized a limited edition of 50 pressings, all of which are in private hands.
Except for this one remaining lithograph.
It's an aqua tint, actually.
Thomas, who cares?
I'm sorry. Does it run contrary to the policies of this establishment that somebody actually try to sell something?
You're in that nerve-wracking moment. You're doing previews at the moment for the new play, Impressionism. Have you found over the years that sometimes a play changes during the previews?
Oh, yes, certainly. I think many directors do most of their real work during previews. Rehearsing, you can do it so much. Rehearsing with a new play, you can do so much. But you don't know how it sounds, you don't know how it is until you put it to an audience. The audience is, in a way, the third character who you need. We have very few previews. We have really 7 or 8 working previews. And when I say working, I mean ones that we can rehearse during the day, put in new stuff, change stuff, and then see how it plays that night. And that's a relatively short time, 7 performances. So nerve-wracking, the play's playing well. We are adjusting, and that's quite invigorating, actually. The audiences are enjoying it. We want them to enjoy it even more.
And you just done a film with Joan as well, haven't you?
I have. Well, complete coincidence, because we decided to do this play about a year ago. And in the summer of last year, I was asked to go and play Alfred Stieglitz opposite Joan's Georgia O'Keeffe, one of the great American painters. Alfred Stieglitz, one of the great American photographers, very early photographers, who married, had a very tempestuous relationship. And that was a complete coincidence. So we went to New Mexico and made a television film for Lifetime. And fortunately finished up after the shooting as great friends, because of course it's a risk.
Lucky, yeah.
Yeah. We could well have finished the shooting and thought, well, I'm glad I don't have to work with her again, and then have to do the play.
Yeah.
So it was a risk which the play's producer and my director was quite nervous about, but it paid off, and she and I enjoy working together a lot. So it meant we went into rehearsal knowing each other and trusting each other and knowing how each other worked. Which was very good.
That's very. I was totting up the films, and you're well over 50 films now, aren't you?
Am I?
Yes.
I'm not old
nearing
enough,
60.
I'm not. No, I'm not old enough for that, David. In my head, I've only done about 15.
Which were the 3 you put in the time capsule?
It's very difficult. I think I put Lolita in there because I think Lolita is a classic work, and it's a film which does what I think films should do, which is to stir up an audience, to divide them, to make them face their prejudices. I think I put in The Mission. And I think I put in Danny, Champion of the World, because it was shot in our neck of the woods in England, around Stoner and in Oxfordshire. My son was in it with me. My father-in-law was in it with me. And it's one of those films you see rarely these days, but Roald Dahl's story. I think probably those 3. But I don't know, I have great fondness for many of the films I've made, not necessarily because they're good, but because I had a very happy time making them.
But probably Brideshead, which is a television series, I guess, rather than a film, but had the most beneficial impact on your career, did it?
I think so. I think so. Brideshead made a huge mark on the audience and is still played still remembered, and it's the first thing people always say to me. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. I haven't seen it for a long while, but I keep meeting people who've just seen it or seen it replayed somewhere or just bought the box set.
And people think of you as a Charles Ryder figure, don't they?
I suppose they do. I'm not really.
You're not, knowing you enough to know that you're not particularly a Charles Ryder figure, but people naturally glom onto that, don't they?
They do. They do. I had to make a bit of an effort to pull away from that because I never wanted to spend my career playing upper-class, charming Englishmen. I thought
there's a limit.
There's a limit, and in fact, after Brideshead, well, I made French Lieutenant's Woman at the same time as Brideshead, another upper-class Englishman. But then I waited about a year and went and made a film playing a Polish builder in a little movie called Moonlighting, to sort of send out a signal that I'm European, I can speak other languages, I'm dirtier, I'm more rough-edged than Charles Ryder, and I'm interested in characters who are more extreme, more edgy, more dangerous than what is perceived to be the archetype of Englishman. What is the archetype of Englishman these days? I mean,
Do they still have double-barrel names? I didn't know.
No, I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows these things? But Klaus von Bülow was a memorable landmark because it was an Oscar, of course, for you in that.
Yeah.
And you were in two minds about doing that, everyone says, because of
I was, because
the suffering
he was
lady.
alive.
He or she?
Well, they were both alive. I mean, she wouldn't have been aware of it because she was in coma. But he was alive, his family, his kids at that time were alive. Cosima still is, thank goodness. And I just thought it was rather bad taste. I thought they'd been through a terrible time in their lives. Do you really want to see actors portraying you in a film? So I felt there was a touch of sort of News of the World about it. I thought, no, I don't want to do this. And then was eventually encouraged by Glenn Close, who was playing Sonny, and she said, you know, come on, this is a great story. If you don't do it, someone else will. And I did it, and I got great accolades for playing it. So I have no regrets, and I think it's a nice film.
It was a very, very powerful film.
Pretty powerful.
Very sad story, really.
Yes.
That whole
Awful,
story.
Awful.
You have a quality of melancholy that someone wrote that doesn't suffuse your being now, or particularly. But do you think you have a particularly powerful strain when you're playing a melancholic character, that is something you can do uniquely well?
I don't know. I think I went through a period of my life where I was perhaps quite melancholy and used that a bit. I'm always very interested in how people cope. You know, we put on a brave face in life when we get up in the morning. We shave and we think, right, out we go. Yeah. But actually, inside us all is sadness, hopelessness, lack. And I love seeing how people deal with that. And so that's what I try to find in my work. I try to find characters who are slightly enigmatic, as we all are, but to in some way open up a character so that what appears, you then realize, oh, there's something else there. Which is why I like playing people like Humbert Humbert in Lolita, because, you know, a man who behaved in a way that is socially and morally castigated, and yet actually quite a good man, a man who knew he was failing and doing wrong, but he was sort of, you know, I am, and that contradiction, I love it when I find that. Klaus von Bülow had a similar thing. I mean, Klaus is, you know, not a bad man, and yet there he was up in court for murdering his wife. How do you deal with that? I just find that whole area interesting. I'm not interested in black and white. I'm interested in grey and maybe melancholia is involved in that grey.
And you talk about it just as well as you do it. Jeremy, thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure talking to you.
Just a job.
Pleasure.
Our thanks to Jeremy Irons. Now, is the world more dangerous now than it was in the 1970s? Find out from a man who knows after this short break.